Prabhupada ki jai. Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Ganga Yamuna Mai ki jai. Tulsi Maharani ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, titled, The Status Quo, Chapter 25, The Glories of Devotional Service. We're on text 9. So if you could please repeat after me. Ya Adyo Bhagavan Pumsam Ishvaro Vai Bhavan Kila Lokasya Tamasandasya Chakshuhu Surya Ivoditaha Ya Adyo Bhagavan Pumsam Ishvaro Vai Bhavan Kila Lokasya Tamasandasya Chakshusurya Ivoditaha Ya Adyo Bhagavan Pumsam Ishvaro Vai Bhavan Kila Lokasya Tamasandasya Chakshusurya Ivoditaha Ya Adyo Bhagavan Pumsam Ishvaro Vai Bhavan Kila Lokasya Tamasandasya Chakshusurya Ivoditaha. Please chant. right. So yeah, before we continue, I'll just make a short announcement. My name is Balaram Das, and I'm a disciple of His Holiness Giriraj Swami, and I joined the Hare Krishna movement in San Diego, California. I know, looking out in the crowd, some of you have been there. It's about 2 hours south of Los Angeles, and I have been serving there in the San Diego temple. Yeah, I joined when I was 18, and I've been serving there for the last 20 years. So just telling you a little bit. So yes, if everybody could please repeat after me. Yaha, he who, Adyaha, the origin, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Pumsam, of all living entities, Ishvaraha, the Lord, Vai, in fact, Bhavan, you, Kila, indeed, Lokasya, of the universe, Tamasa, by the darkness of ignorance, Andasya, blinded, Chakshuhu, eye, Suryaha, the sun, Eva, like, Uditaha, risen. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin and Supreme Lord of all living entities. You have arisen to disseminate the rays of the sun in order to dissipate the darkness of the ignorance of the universe. Purport. Kapila Muni is accepted as an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Here the word Adyaha means the origin of all living entities, and Pumsam Ishvara means the Lord, Ishvara, of the living entities. Ishvara Parama Krishna. Kapila Muni is the direct expansion of Krishna, who is the sun of spiritual knowledge. As the sun dissipates the darkness of the universe, so when the light of the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes down, it at once dissipates the darkness of Maya. We have our eyes, but without the light of the sun, our eyes are of no value. Similarly, without the light of the Supreme Lord, or without the divine grace of the spiritual master, one cannot see things as they are. Om Agyanatividandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulunmeditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karidavachalam Pangam Langai Tegirim Yakripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinitarinam Vancha Kalpadrubhishcha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasri Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, translation once again. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the origin and Supreme Lord of all living entities. You have arisen to disseminate the rays of the sun in order to dissipate the darkness of the ignorance of the universe. In Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Hare Krishna. In Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is, the analogy is given that Krishna is like the sun, and Maya is like darkness. So wherever there is sun, wherever the sun is, darkness cannot exist there. So the question is, where is Krishna? This is a good question. Is Krishna here in Mayapur? Is Krishna here? Is Krishna in Vrindavan? Is Krishna in Jagannath Puri? Is he in London? Is he in Delhi, Mumbai, New York City, Los Angeles? He might not be in Los Angeles. No, he's there. He's there. But Krishna, he's everywhere. He's all pervading. But our ability to perceive Krishna's personality, or Krishna, our ability to see Krishna, our ability to perceive Krishna, to realize Krishna is here, or is based on our level of spiritual vision, or a level of qualification. Just like we see in the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, you have two men, young men, by the name of Nalakuva and Manigriva. And Nalakuva and Manigriva, we're in a very good place, a sacred place. They were there, submerged in the water of the Ganga, celestial Ganga. Srila Prabhupada comments on that. He says that generally people go to the Ganga to become purified. Just like here, we have Mother Ganga very close. Devotees are going there sometimes daily to offer their prayers and to bathe in her holy water, which is a good thing. Everyone should go. We should all go. So Srila Prabhupada comments that generally people go to become purified. But then he says, not all the time. And he comments that Nalakuva and Manigriva, they were not becoming purified, but they're engaged in sinful activity. And what were they doing there in the Ganga? Everybody knows. What were they doing? What was that? Having fun? Yes, having fun with some female companions. So we see that it's not automatic. Krishna consciousness is not automatic. Srila Prabhupada goes on to say that everything depends on one's mental condition. So everything depends on one's mental condition. In other words, their understanding, their realization. We also see in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, you have one person by the name of Ramdas Vishwas. And externally, he was a very humble person, very scholarly person. And not only that, not only was he displaying some humility and scholarship, but he was chanting all the time the name of Ramchandra, Kirtaniya Sadahari. He was chanting all the time. And when he met Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, they joined each other and they continued to Jagannath Puri. And when they arrived to Jagannath Puri, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was very, very indifferent towards him. It wasn't he didn't welcome him with any deep affection. And why is that? Because Ramdas Vishwas, he had a wrong conception. He was a Mayavadi. He wanted to merge into the existence of Krishna. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't appreciate that. But on the other hand, you have Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, who was with him, Ramdas Vishwas, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced him. He embraced him, and he greeted him, and he was very happy to be in his company, to say the least. He was ecstatic to be in the company of such a pure devotee as Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. So, if we, of course, it's a very It's a very high goal. It's the most high goal to be in the direct association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates. But if we want to attain Krishna Prem, or say Chaitanya Prem, if we want to attain love for Krishna or love for Lord Chaitanya, if we want to be embraced by, if we want to have that sidelong glance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then it requires us to actively cultivate pure devotion. To actively try to drive out any misconceptions we have in our consciousness. And we do that by engaging in tapasya, austerity. Mayapur, Vrindavan, so many of these holy places, they're meant for tapasya. They're meant for more hearing and chanting about Krishna. They're meant for living a simple life. And by doing that, by accepting the pain of purification, we're able to get away from the pain of having anartas, or unwanted things in the heart. Unwanted things means suffering. Unwanted things in the heart means suffering. So, by accepting the pain of purification, so to speak, we are able to become free from the suffering of anartas. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada, in order to drive out our misconceptions, or in order to drive out our ignorance, and in order for us to become pure devotees, he most expertly established the morning program, which includes the 5 most potent forms of devotional service. We're in a holy place, we're hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, we're chanting the holy name, we're worshiping the deity, and we're in the association of devotees. And even a slight attachment to any of these can awaken love for Krishna, Srila Rupa Goswami says, even in a neophyte. So, part of that process that Srila Prabhupada established, the morning program, is the Srimad Bhagavatam class. And the Srimad Bhagavatam class is a personal invitation to meet Krishna on a daily basis. Because the Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna. We hear in, there's the verse, share with you. This is from the first canto. I'll read the verse and I'll just read an excerpt from the purport. This is from the first canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 3, text 40. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishihi Nirshayasaya Lokasya Danyam Swasya Namahat. It's a translation. This Srimad Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of God. And it is compiled by Srila Vyasadeva, the incarnation of God. So not only is it the incarnation of God, but is compiled by the incarnation of God, Srila Vyasadeva. So in other words, you can't get any better than that. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. And it is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. So I'll just read an excerpt from the purport here. One moment. As God is all light, all bliss, and all perfection, so also is Srimad Bhagavatam. All light, all bliss, and all perfection. We can have all the transcendental light of the Supreme Brahman Sri Krishna from the recitation of Srimad Bhagavatam. provided it is received through the medium of the transparent spiritual master. Lord Chaitanya's private secretary, Srila Srup Damodar Goswami, advised all intending visitors who came to see the Lord at Puri to make a study of the Bhagavatam from the person Bhagavatam. Person Bhagavatam is the self-realized bona fide spiritual master, and through him only can one understand the lessons of Bhagavatam in order to receive the desired result. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally demonstrating this. He was also hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, most famously from Gadadhar Pandit. I was looking at these here and thinking in case people start crying, they could. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was hearing the Bhagavatam from Gadadhar Pandit, you could imagine the ecstasy they were both, or we can imagine actually. It's just inconceivable, the ecstasy they were feeling. She says Chaitanya Mahaprabhu especially liked to hear about two particular accounts in the Bhagavatam, that of Prahlad Maharaj and Dhruva Maharaj. And Gadadhar Pandit was such he was crying while he was reciting the Bhagavatam. It said he was crying so much that the pages of the Bhagavatam were being soaked in his tears. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was personally demonstrating this. So this should be encouraging to us to try to hear, read, meditate on the Bhagavatam as much as possible. And the more we do that, the more things become clear. That's what Srila Prabhupada said. So we'll just read the rest of the excerpt here. One can derive from the study of the Bhagavatam all benefits that are possible to be derived from the personal presence of the Lord. It carries with it all the transcendental blessings of Lord Sri Krishna that we can expect from His personal contact. So all the blessings we can get from being in personal contact with Krishna can be obtained by study of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's most important. One of Srila Prabhupada's disciples, Hayagriva, an early disciple, one night he had a dream, and the next morning he told Srila Prabhupada that dream. And in the dream, he saw Krishna and Arjuna, and Krishna was reciting the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. And then in the dream, Hayagriva is explaining to Srila Prabhupada that Krishna transformed into Srila Prabhupada and Arjuna transformed into Hayagriva. So Prabhupada heard this dream. So Hayagriva was asking Srila Prabhupada what he thought about that. And Srila Prabhupada said, that's very good. He said, this is the principle of disciplic succession. Of course, it's not that the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, is Krishna, or that the disciples are Arjuna, but the principle of disciplic succession is there, in that whatever Krishna told Arjuna, Srila Prabhupada is telling Hayagriva. So that's what we're trying to continue in the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, the message as it is. And this is really the process of how we see things clearly. Otherwise, what can we see? We can't see. Our mundane vision cannot be allowed entrance into in the transcendental realm. One of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's most favorite verses that he would quote often, according to this book Bhaktisiddhanta Vaibhava, is that this particular verse, Atha Shri Krishna Nama Di Nabhaved Gram Indriya Sevan Mukhe Jivada Swameva Spratada. that the material blunt senses, mundane senses, cannot perceive Krishna's form, his qualities, anything, lila. But by engaging the same senses, beginning with the tongue, and taking food offered to Krishna, and by chanting the holy name, Krishna reveals himself. One's senses become purified and Krishna reveals himself. So we can't expect to see without engaging in the process of bhakti very strictly. Just like if one has cataract in their eyes, they cannot see properly. They have to go to the doctor and get it removed. And then one can see. So similarly, one has to accept the process of bhakti as it is given to us by Srila Prabhupada. And then one will be able to see things clearly. And it should always be noted that it's a process that requires us, our participation. Bhakti is not a, what do they call that? A type of sport where you bystander, or anyone think of the word? What is it? Passive. Not something that to be watched. It's an active engagement, bhakti. For example, Srila Prabhupada, one time he was here in India, and somebody came up to him, and he said, they fell at his feet. And they said, Swamiji, Swamiji, only you could save us. Touching Srila Prabhupada's feet. And Srila Prabhupada said, yes, that's true. But then he said, but the question is, are you willing to follow? So that's the question, really, that Srila Prabhupada's there, spiritual master's there, Srila Prabhupada's there. We have all the help we need, really. We're surrounded. We're like swimming in an ocean of mercy, actually. You have the Bhagavatam, and you have Prasadam and Devotee Association. We're here in Mayapur. We're like surrounded by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But still, we need to make our effort. Just like the examples given, the sun may be shining outside, and it's good to get some sun, vitamin D, so on. But if we close the curtains and stay inside, then we can't get the benefit of the sun. So similarly, Krishna is there, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is there, the mercy is there, fully available. But we have to open ourselves, or you could say open our hearts to that flow of mercy. And the more we're able to do that, the better it will be for us, the better it will be for the people in our company, and the better it will be for the world. We could share Krishna consciousness more powerfully if we're experiencing. So I'll stop there. Does anybody have any question or comment? Anything?
Hare Krishna, Balaram Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much for your introduction.
Thank you.
That was very nice to know where you're from.
Thank you.
You come from, I was in California, in San Diego, working as a carpenter, 1983. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I never met a Hare Krishna devotee. I was 1 year in America. And somebody told me there's free food, but I never went. Hariva.
Well, you're here now, so. Very nice. Any other question? Comment? Okay. Okay, Janmashtami Prabhu, you had something? And then Shachitanoi.
You were describing how we can access the light, of course through Bhagavatam, but primarily it's coming through the disciplic succession, through Srila Prabhupada. So one of my favorite quotes, I might have mentioned this to you yesterday, but this is from, and it's something we all really have to take seriously. This is on Madhya Lila, chapter 22, verse 113. Smartavya sadatam Vishnur Vishmartavyo najatu chet sarve vidhi nasheda shur etayoreva kinkara. One should always remember Krishna, and one should never forget him. All the rules and regulations coming from Shastra and from Guru are simply servants of these two principles. And then Prabhupada says if one wants to remember Krishna, he needs to chant Hare Krishna. A few sentences later he says of all the orders of the spiritual master, the chanting of 16 rounds is the most essential. So in other words, this is the Yuga Dharma. We need to put the highest priority on our japa, really focus, crying from the heart, praying, Krishna, please purify me. Please let me come to you. So it can be really powerful if we put it as our highest priority. And we do that first thing in the morning. We don't do anything else. We just give it our full attention and full utsaha. And then the whole day will be blissful. If we neglect this most essential order, most important order from Srila Prabhupada, oh, Krishna, all hell will break loose in our lives. But we can really get the light and be able to access the intricacies and the subtleties of Srimad Bhagavatam, apply it in our lives. We can associate with devotees in a proper way, out of respect and humility, tolerate maybe some inconsistencies in relationships. That's all coming from the holy name. This is our power.
Yes.
It's not ours, it's coming to us, and we can access it.
Yes.
But we have to be very serious and very committed to doing this.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, one time Srila Prabhupada was with his disciples here in India, Yamuna Devi, Tamal Krishna Goswami, and a number of others, famous early disciples of Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada walked in the room while all the devotees were chanting japa. And he saw Yamuna Devi. She paused while she was chanting japa, and she started to write something in her notebook. And then Prabhupada said, you shouldn't do that. And he said, better you wait till your japa is finished, and then you could do that. That could wait. And interesting enough is that Yamuna Devi, after that, for her whole life, she followed that instruction. It's amazing. She writes how that, and I take her word, she's an honest person, she writes how after hearing that instruction from Srila Prabhupada, she didn't do anything before she chanted in the morning. She said she was living in Canada, it's cold. So she said she would do one thing, that put wood in the fireplace, but that was it. She'd always followed that principle. So it's a wonderful principle to follow, that when we chant, just to chant, and not do anything else, like Archita Prabhu was mentioning yesterday, the japa terrorist. So if those of you who were there or heard it, you remember that. So that's there. Also, it's a busy world. There's so many things to do. Even in Krishna consciousness, especially in Krishna consciousness, there's so many things to do. Another time when Prabhupada was giving class, he asked, where is Yamuna Devi? And then the devotee said, she's out shopping for the deities. That's shopping for the deities. And then Srila Prabhupada said that this isn't good. He said if she continues like this, she'll become like a karmi. It's interesting. She's shopping for the deities. I mean, she's not like shopping for herself or something. So it just goes to show a very interesting point Srila Prabhupada's making. But about this in the morning being our first priority, we have experience, or maybe we have experienced that if we put it off, our japa, then we put it off, and then it becomes very, very late at night, and struggling to chant rounds and so on. So there's that example given that when managing our life, specifically our time, which is what our life consists of really, there's the example that just like a jar, you have a jar, so, and if you need to fit sand in there and rocks, you put rocks first, the big rocks first, and then you put sand. So we had one brahmachari actually give a talk at one of our outreach gatherings, and he randomly collected a bunch of sand from our local beach there and a bunch of rocks, and he got a jar. And he was making this point, like as a display in front of everybody. Somehow or other, he got the right exact amount. He filled up the jar with the sand and the rocks. Anyways, it's a little... But the point is that the rocks, the big rocks, represent the most important things in our life. And the sand represents everything else. So if we put the sand first, there's no room for the rocks. So if we put the rocks first, which represent the highest priorities, and then the sand later, then that's the method. And about us being able to understand the subtleties of the Bhagavatam and so on, Ravindra Sarup Prabhu, in one of his most recent Vyasa Puja offerings, he quoted one philosopher. I'm forgetting his name, but the philosopher was making the point that if an ape, monkey, looks into a book, we'll rewind. Books are like mirrors. Like a mirror, you put on tilak, it's like a mirror. Books are like a mirror. So he said that, this philosopher said that if a monkey, if an ape looks into a mirror, you can't expect a prophet to be looking out. Like a saint to be looking out, because it reflects. So the process of chanting Hare Krishna and the process of bhakti purifies us so we could understand the Bhagavatam. Otherwise, we can't understand much. So those are just some, yes.
Quick comment. The first time I heard this was from your Guru Maharaj. She was giving a pre-Christmas marathon lecture in Los Angeles. And this was a pastime which kind of emphasizes the prioritization that should be given to japa. Prabhupada went to Atlanta in 1975. All the book distributors in North America converged on the Atlanta temple to get the magic formula for increasing book distribution. And Savas Prabhu, who's the temple president in Los Angeles for many, many years, he's the longest tenured temple president in ISKCON history. And he asked Prabhupada a question. He said, Srila Prabhupada, how can we increase our desire to distribute your books? And then Prabhupada went into a very, very deep meditative silence, stared at the ceiling and said, if you really want to increase book distribution, if you really want to increase book distribution, if you really want to increase book distribution, you will chant all of your rounds without stopping. And, I often, then I started reflecting, because when I joined the movement in '77, all of the Sankirtan devotees in North America got up at 2 a.m. It was the standard.
Chant your rounds before Mangalarti, right?
Well, it depends on how fast you chant, but at least to get an hour reading in before darshan artik. That's often would be the case.
Mm-hmm.
And I often wondered where that came from. And then I heard this lecture by your Guru Maharaj, and had an aha moment. That's where it came from. That was speculation on my part because I didn't get confirmation from anybody. So then a couple of years ago, in the Radhamadava courtyard, during the GBC meetings, I sat down next to Savas Prabhu, who's a North American BBT trustee for many years as well. And I conveyed this Leela. And then I said, is that why everyone, all the book distributors in North America got up at 2? Savas Prabhu? And he said, I don't know about everybody else, but that's why I did it. But that was the formula, and it was amazing. Gradually it slid, as you know, and also book distribution went down. But it's something to bear in mind, you know, just the level of prioritization that needs to be put on japa.
Yes.
And usually I was really impressed yesterday that you didn't even have your mobile phone with you when we first met. But that's the ultimate distracting element, is these dumb phones in Kali Yuga. And it's have a devastating effect on the culture in India. This was a previous lecture that was given by Samba, I think his name was, So what to speak of, this is the babysitter for children now. You know, our cook comes over, her granddaughter's there, and so that she won't bother them as they're cooking, the mother and the grandmother, they give her a phone and she just sits out on my veranda watching cartoons. So, you know, it's something that, you know, in terms of japa, if we really want to go deep in it, we should turn it on until we're finished. Maybe some rare circumstances where there's an emergency.
Savas Prabhu still follows that principle. He gets up before Mangalarti and he chants all of his rounds. And he says that I do that so I'll be ready for the day. And he's the temple president, so he says, I'm not sure what's going to happen, so I have to be ready. So, Sachitana, you had something?
Just a comment, Prabhu.
Yeah, sure.
That was a very interesting recollection of the dream of Hayagriva and Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
And actually, you explained the principle. I just want to add this part that when you were mentioning that about the dream, just to add something, is that in one purport, Srila Prabhupada said, someone might say, oh, Arjuna was fortunate because he heard from Krishna directly. But actually, all of us, we are Arjunas in the sense that we also, that knowledge is meant for us.
Yes.
So in that sense, Hayagriva was okay. And the other part is that Srila Prabhupada, we heard that Sakshat Aridvana Samasta Shastra, there's no difference. And he said, Krishna says, Sarvadharmam Parijaya, and I said, Sarvadharmam Parijaya. So the principle there is there. So
yes, thank you.
That part.
Yeah, great point. We're associating personally, with Krishna and all of the great acharyas by studying the Bhagavatam. Any other question? Yes, Kinshana Prabhu, or a comment? Kinshana Balaram Prabhu?
You mentioned that everything depends on one's mental attitude. Can you elaborate more on that?
Sure. Yeah, Srila Prabhupada writes in the Nectar of Instruction that advancement of the follower of Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower. So we could say mental condition or attitude. And that attitude is meant to be one of very humble, just like we hear Tadvidhi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya. When Srila Prabhupada was here when he was in India, in Bombay, there was one young man in the audience. He's very challenging. And he was like, you could say, gangster-looking type of person with big chains, and he had his leather vest on and tattoos, and from America. And he was asking a challenging question. Srila Prabhupada said, you could bring him up on stage. There's thousands of people there. Thousands. 30,000. That's a lot of people. So he said, bring him up on stage. So the man came up on stage and Prabhupada said, give him asan. Give him a seat. And then Srila Prabhupada said, give him a microphone. Can't believe it. Give him a microphone. So then they started going back and forth in front of 30,000 people. And then the man said, how old is Bhagavad Gita? And Srila Prabhupada said, 5,000 years old. And the man said, my authorities say it's 2,000 years old. And then Srila Prabhupada said, that's nonsense. And they kept on going back and forth. And it was getting very intense. At one point, Srila Prabhupada said, okay, you could remove him from the stage. Again, this was in front of 30,000 people, so whenever you're with a lot of people, people take different sides. So some people took the side of this American man, and some people took the side of Srila Prabhupada. So all the devotees who were distributing books, there was so much turmoil in the audience, they all just retreated. But then Srila Prabhupada went on to explain the process of knowledge. And he said that there is a process, tadvidhi pranipatena pariprashnaya seva. We have to humbly approach, we have to humbly inquire, we have to serve the spiritual master, and by that attitude or that mental condition, then one will be given transcendental knowledge. So he personally demonstrated the process of knowledge by this interaction between him and the man on stage. So afterwards, in the back, Malati Devi was there, one of Prabhupada's early American disciples. I'm sure everybody knows her. So she was there, and then the organizer came, and she told Malati, your guru ruined everything, because there was a lot of turmoil in the audience and everything. And then Malati, she looked at him, and she got her hand, and she slapped him in the face. And she said, my guru didn't ruin anything. That's her transcendental anger. So when we approach the spiritual master or the senior devotees, when we approach the deities, when we approach the Srimad Bhagavatam, when we approach the holy rivers, when we're approaching these different personalities, we want to approach very humbly. And so that's the mood. Trinada pisu nechena Torah pisu ishana manina manidena kirtaniya sadahari. That one should be more humble than the straw and the street, more tolerant than a tree, ready to offer all respects to others and expect no respect in return. And in such a state, one could chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Srila Prabhupada told his godbrother, O.B.L. Kapoor, because Prabhupada used to be a pharmacist, so O.B.L. Kapoor came and he was asking Abhaychar, and he said, what is the tonic for Krishna Prem? And Srila Prabhupada said, well, I have the formula. And then he said, well, what is that? And then Srila Prabhupada quoted this verse, Trinada pisu nechena Torah pisu. That's the formula for love for Krishna. So that's the mental condition. If we approach through pride, through arrogance, through like feeling that we're entitled, etc., then it's difficult. So better we follow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction. So that's something. All right, any last question or comment? Anyone from this side of the room? Or this side? Okay, one and then two in the back. And then that's the last.
That quote from that's from the preface of Nectar of Instruction.
Yes.
It's one of my favorites. I'll just read it. Advancement in Krishna consciousness depends on the attitude of the follower.
Yes.
And then Prabhupada goes into a follower of the Krishna consciousness movement should become a perfect Goswami. Because if one is not Goswami, then he's the center of the universe, trying to enjoy it. And the humility won't be there, the challenging. Regarding that pastime, in the Pandal, afterwards Prabhupada said, I just was using anger in Krishna's service. And in the Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita, the analysis was given that most of the people that were attending the Pandal were contaminated by Mayavad philosophy. And they're used to people just completely detached, renounced, so-called peaceful, but way off base in terms of their Krishna consciousness, not even Krishna conscious at all.
Yeah.
They've disseminated, they've denigrated the whole philosophy to impersonalism.
Thank you. Okay, last. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, it was a very nice class. Thank you. Prabhuji, for being in Krishna conscious for a long time, a person takes a lot of time to get a guru. What could be the reason for that? Just my observation, I just wanted to get a clarification on that.
So you're saying a person may be practicing Krishna consciousness for a long time, but still they're taking a long time to get a guru? Is that the question? Wow, okay, that's a question that requires a lot of, but very briefly. It could, I was discussing this with some devotees the other night. It could be for different reasons. Could be due to pride. They may be so proud that they think I don't need to accept a guru, or maybe there's no gurus good enough for me. Just like Duryodhana and Yudhishthir, there's that pastime where they were asked to go out and find somebody who is superior to you, so out in the town. So Duryodhana went out, he came back, and he said, I couldn't find anybody who was, no. Yeah, I couldn't find anybody who's superior to me, better than me. And then Yudhishthir went out, and he came back, and he said, I couldn't find anybody who was better than me, who was less than me. No, anyways, you understand. You understand what I'm saying. So, it might be due to pride, it might be to misconception that I don't need a guru, it's not important, that's there. It may be due to, there's some other ones I was thinking, but yeah. Maybe due to the person not being serious. I remember my spiritual master, he one time met with one devotee, and she was explaining how she's been practicing for many years, but she's still not initiated. She has a granddaughter who's a devotee, and so on and so on. And he very gently but sternly said that if you want to make advancement, you have to follow the process. And if you're not serious to follow the process, then what can you expect? Because the process, a Tao, right, to accept a spiritual master, that's the first principle. Guru Padashraya. So those could be some considerations. All right, so now we will break, and we'll have prasadam, I think most people will have. So, Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Nitya Gaura Premanande.